Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nick Cage Fight Podcast, where we had a panic attack, passed out, and woke up in 1986, where we have to review the hottest new movie on the block, Peggy Sue Got Married. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. Rich and Ryan, how are we today?
I am eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and people who listen to the last episode will get that reference.
I was just going to shout out that's gay, but people who didn't listen to the last episode might cancel me for it. So listen to the last episode first.
And
I'm Ryan? How are you doing?
Eating a cucumber sandwich.
There you go.
The less gay of the options.
Yeah, just skip the jelly.
So,
I bet a cucumber sandwich with peanut butter wouldn't be that bad.
It probably wouldn't.
A little crunchy peanut butter, yeah, that'd be pretty decent.
I'm gonna have to play around with that.
I'm a creamy guy.
You're leaving nuts
I don't like how you phrased that.
You're leaving your nuts on the table in that case, man. You get more for your money if they got it kind of chunky. So where we last left off, Peggy Sue is fucking dead set on rewriting her time in high school. Who wouldn't want that? I don't know. If I had to go back to high school,
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
College, fine. Like,
yeah,
I could do some shit in college.
I was gonna go darker with it, but I won't. But yeah,
just like this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Which is smart, probably overall. But so it's lunchtime, and Walter and Charlie sit together. Peggy, meanwhile, is basically eyeballing all the dudes she wished she took a swing at while she was in high school. But she does go over to talk to Richard, the nerd who becomes a billionaire, right? Walter and Charlie crack some jokes at Richard's expense, with Jim Carrey giving a very early rendition of his later perfected fake gag bit. He's used that in basically every fucking movie he's been in from here on since. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, there you go. He's working out the kinks of the bit. It's perfect. But Peggy Sue has a brief conversation with Richard, asking to meet up with him later in the day, which he assents to after some quibbling, right? And then later on, Peggy Sue is practicing as a majorette. It's a fucking baton twirlers. Is there another name for that? I can't remember.
I just always called them baton twirlers.
Yeah, my mom did that shit in high school. She used to keep the baton like within arm's reach so that she could just do that.
Hey man, if you learn a skill in high school, did you really learn it if you don't just break it out at every opportunity from there on out?
No, that's how open mic nights happen still.
Oh, yes, very true. In fact, I haven't been to watch one of those in a while. I gotta do that again soon. But anyway, so Charlie comes up to have a talk with her at this practice, but she's still kind of standoffish. She's ready to try and do things different this time. So Peggy does go and meet up with Richard, and she asks him if he thinks time travel is possible. And Richard explains that yes, it is possible, citing Einstein's theory of relativity, but then pitches his own theory that he thinks time is like a burrito.
And then explains what a burrito is.
Yeah.
To where Peggy Sue's just like, I know what a burrito is.
The funniest thing is I very recently rewatched Event Horizon, and the burrito
God, I love Event Horizon so much.
Is not so much different than the fucking Event Horizon folded poster thing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say.
I mean, like it's just the space travel in Dune. In Dune, they fold space like that.
Yeah, and you need to be super high on fucking drugs to navigate
fucking high.
Space. you gotta get so high you're a fish man.
So fucking high.
I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's only in the David Lynch movie. That's not actually what they're supposed to look like, the Guild Navigators.
No. There's I just read through all of the books. They're sort of fishmen. They describe the navigators as being in these giant mobile tanks that's just sort of filled with melange, and you get this like Abe Sapien style. Maybe I was adding that flavor in my head. You know how it is when you read books, but
yeah.
I got real Fishman vibes from the text. Just saying.
It's been a minute since I've read those, so I might be mistaken. But I know the David Lynch one takes some serious liberties with the visuals of those bad boys.
Yeah, it's a shame. I stopped reading after the original author's demise. I did not feel like picking up
Oh,
his
don't.
kid's
Yeah, the
interpretation.
Brian Herbert stuff's not good. Well, okay, there's one good Brian Herbert. It's the Valerian Jihad, but besides that, all of his other books are just not great.
It's just I always felt like they were leading up to like cosmic horror threat to sort of describe what they were defending against.
Yeah.
But I did do some research on what his kids thing was, and it was like the fucking Terminator robots, basically. Call back to the Butlerian Jihad
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and that was the big threat. And I was like, nope, I'm opting out of that. I'd rather keep
It's
the
Necrons.
unfinished story with maybe Cthulhu being the
Yeah.
big threat. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
thought
no,
that stood better.
it just does a 40K.
So anyway, so Peggy Sue confides to Richard that she is from the future, 25 years ahead, and she tells him a bunch of things that haven't happened yet to convince him that she's telling the truth, and she succeeds. So Peggy also says she thinks she died at the reunion. So Richard tells her, okay, well, this is an easy one to figure out. Just stand in the road as this fire truck is barreling down it, and if you're dead, the truck will just pass right through you.
Which is making a lot of assumptions about how ghosts work.
He
Yeah.
immediately jumped into the okay, this is a ghost theory,
Yeah.
despite the fact that you're entirely corporeal to me, because he actually puts his hands on her shoulders
Yeah.
to move her into the fucking street. Uh, if the movie did end on that note, Richard would have had a very different life trajectory. So yeah, at the last second, Peggy Sue's like, I don't want to fucking die here in high school 25 years prior to where I just left. So she
No.
jumps out of the way of the
God,
truck.
who wants to die in high school?
It's not good. So like Ryan mentioned in our last episode, when Peggy gets home, Peggy's mom is selling off her jewelry. How did you get that, by the way? I take your
he's looking at a bunch of jewels. He's saying like the setting looks nice. I'll take it to the appraiser and we'll see how much we can get for it.
Gotcha. I totally disconnected that in my head. But yeah, so Peggy's mom gets interrupted trying to offload some jewelry to some consignee shop or some shit like that. And to gloss over this, Peggy Sue's mom explains that it's like a vote register person and that she's gonna probably vote for the Democrats this year, but not to tell her father about it. Which this is kind of an interesting scene in that context, in that Peggy Sue goes back in time and has an opportunity to get some sort of insight into maybe some weird shit from her growing up that she didn't recognize at the time, and still gets misled about it. I don't know if they're trying to make a point with that, but that is kind of interesting, no matter how you slice it. I don't know. Kind of digesting that in real time here as I'm talking about it. So Peggy, the phone rings. Peggy Sue answers it, and it's her grandmother. And Peggy Sue has kind of a little bit of a breakdown. Jumps off the phone real quick, and obviously to the viewer, it's apparent that Peggy Sue's grandmother dies at some point between now in the past and when she was an adult, and so that's got to be kind of jarring. So props to them for actually writing that pretty realistically. I like that. And then Peggy's mom has a little bit of a heart to heart with her about whether or not she's having problems with Charlie, because it's clear that they are. And then there's a hilarious moment where the mom does like the 60s version of the birds and the bees talk, which literally boils down to the quote, I think verbatim, is, you know what a penis is, right? Stay away from them. Which is how sex ed was done back then.
Yeah.
And for quite some time afterwards too. So Charlie shows up at Peggy's house that evening, and Peggy's dad asks to talk with him, mainly about how weird Peggy's acting. This was the 60s. I think as a woman, you could still get committed for hysteria and have a doctor just drill at you with a vibrator to get you over it. I'm not quite 100% on where the DSM was at that point in time, but I figure it's not far off from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. there is a funny conversation between Charlie and Peggy's dad about this, where I do give some props to Charlie. Charlie is not overly intimidated by this, and gives some decent quips back, all while Peggy Sue's dad is like smoking a pipe, which is a thing I'm kind of sorry is no longer a thing. I remember older family members doing that. I don't know anybody my age who smokes a pipe. Never mind. Thanks, Ryan. Dear listener, Ryan has 2 pipes sticking out of his face.
I thought that
right
was
now.
3.
Is it 3?
That's
the
the third pipe. That is a third pipe. A third pipe has hit the World Trade Tower.
Yeah, in arm's fucking reach. Thank you, Ryan, for that. I appreciate
where I keep my pipe caddy.
It's good to know the old ways aren't dead.
Got a big old fucking tin of tobacco too.
There you go. Amazing.
One of those was a corncob pipe. Because I'm a grown-ass child.
So Charlie is there to take Peggy to a high school friend Maddie's party. And the thing that I thought funny was particularly funny about this scene is Charlie got Peggy at like a corsage or a flower to pin on her dress just for a fucking high school house party.
Yeah, for like a heavy petting party. That seems like a weird thing to do.
It seems
for him.
Overly
He's a romantic.
Considerate. So they show up to the party, and Charlie and Walter's band are apparently providing entertainment at the party. And of course, it's a fucking a cappella group, which is hilarious. But Peggy does this scene does force Peggy to admit that Charlie is pretty cute. She dances with him after, and then makes out with him in his car. And she suggests that they make love. Her words. And Charlie, this gets Charlie super flustered, because apparently before Peggy Sue jumped back in time, she had just shut down his advances like a week or 2 prior and said that they should wait until marriage. And it also leads to the funniest fucking line and delivery in the entirety of the film, where Peggy Sue is trying to goad Charlie into getting it on. And
did she call it a throbbing thunderhammer at some point? I think I remember that. Okay, cool.
Yep, absolutely.
Lucky Chucky.
Yeah, she's throwing out euphemisms in line with Kiss's love gun. You know what I'm saying? But Charlie's response to her euphemisms is one for the record books, folks. Rich, you got that clip?
Yeah, we got that pulled up. This one's important.
Yep.
You ever see a shaved chimp? Rich, can you pull that up on the main screen for us real quick?
All right, here we go. I'm going a little bit beforehand.
But when I said it, doesn't Lucky Chucky want to come out?
Huh?
No. Your love machine, your throbbing thrill hammer, your thing.
You mean my wang?
I can't. It doesn't matter how many times I play that scene. That is fucking hilarious. You mean my whang?
Whang. A little H at the beginning just really sells it.
It's absurd. It's absurd. Although picturing Francis Ford Coppola having like an anime style forehead vein as he's like, run it again. Is giving me life right now.
Knowing what I know about the production of this movie and how much Ford Coppola hated working with his dickhead nephew because he was hijacking the fucking picture. That scene that plays so much better for me.
Look, in
fucking
fairness, Nick Cage did not want to do this movie. He told Francis Ford Coppola that he will only do it if he can play the character as over the top as he wants.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
The poor fucking production assistant who had a scalding hot coffee thrown all over him after the final take of this scene. My God, I hope he had a long and successful career in Hollywood, because Jesus Christ. Oh shit.
My Huang.
Wang.
So this ends poorly. Charlie, very upset, drops Peggy off back at home and leaves with a parting shot that I can't remember what it was. It was like something like a temptress or something like that, and just peels out from there. Peggy, wanting to keep the party going, does not go inside and instead goes down the street to a local cafe, which, as far as I can tell, is wherever they are is equivalent of the South Jersey diner, where it's always open and teenagers are acting up in it.
Good old diners.
Yep. But before she goes in, she's accosted on the street by somebody trying to hawk cheap goods and services that would advertise their wares on a podcast such as this. So check this out. Who,
Man,
buddy,
you nailed
what an
that
ad
one.
for late night cafe dick pills. um,
You can get your coffee, get your eggs over easy, and some Rhino 69 dick pills.
Yep, get it up, 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 up. You know,
Lasts for 8 to 9 days.
there you go. So Peggy goes into the cafe and she spots Michael Fitzsimmons, the track dude that she wished she slept with in high school, as told by her at the reunion, drinking coffee and reading a book. She goes in and talks with him a bit, and then ends up leaving with him on his motorcycle. So there's a character we haven't talked about basically at all. There is a woman named Dolores who was a gossip in high school and is also doing like weird interviews at the reunion. I'm guessing like a school newspaper lady.
That would
Right?
track, yeah.
Yeah.
But Dolores and her boyfriend for the night, are driving by and see Peggy leaving the cafe with Michael. And the boyfriend refers to Michael as a commie beatnik, which is kind of fucking hilarious. Also, Michael fucking hates Hemingway for some reason, which is, I
Hates
think, an
Hemingway.
incorrect take on literature.
It is the incorrect take on literature, but he's like a beatnik, which was a literary movement that was kind of in response to what Hemingway could be considered a part of.
Okay. Well, still,
I don't know
he's
a
wrong.
thing about literature, so I'm out on this one. I don't know a goddamn thing about books. I can barely read. I went to Catholic school.
How to read?
I went to Catholic school. They didn't teach us how to read. They taught us the sign of the cross and that you get AIDS from premarital sex.
Rich is doing his Charlie Kelly thing. I can read and write. I just don't like to read and write. So Michael and Peggy go up to some weird hill or whatever and smoke a joint together, which is pretty cool. Michael, it's really funny because I think they wrote this character incredibly well in a trope that kind of transcends the time that this is set in. So Michael is a cringe, angsty, anti-establishment high school poet. Now, I know at least 3 names from everybody's past just popped into their head that fits this fucking mix.
It's me.
It hits a little too close to home for me too. So I'm assuming after the events of this movie, Michael Fitzsimmons launches a wildly successful podcast in his 40s.
Yeah, where he reviews every film ever made by John Carradine.
I see. I was going to say like Humphrey Bogart.
No, he'd have some sort of like Unchained literature podcast, unfortunately, where he reads his bad poetry. So, Peggy Sue gets her fucking go back in time wish, and her and Michael totally bang, on this, starlight covered hilltop or wherever the fuck they are. The next day, Peggy Sue is passing by Charlie's dad's appliance shop and stops in and sees Charlie selling an old man a record. It's some classical music. I was half paying attention to the actual names being dropped, but
I didn't catch them
sure
either, and I like classical, so that was my bad for not making a note of it. They were both Russian composers, though. I did notice that, and that's why the guy was having a problem with, why are you suggesting this fucking commie, basically, was the context.
Yep, the Red Scare was real.
Yeah.
So Peggy and Charlie talk about the night before, and Charlie is oddly understanding and charming at this point, which prompts, Peggy Sue to ask, what am I going to do with you? But that's been like a growing theme with this film, is that, present day Peggy Sue is really jaded and incredibly frustrated with the day-to-day realities of living with Charlie. And now she gets to be confronted with why she fell for him in the first place. And that's going to sort of continue and build from here on out. So Peggy meets back up with Richard and is telling him more about the future. And she realizes that pantyhose hasn't been invented yet, and tells Richard she came up with how they'll make their first fortune as sort of like partners, right? She goes home to start trying to stitch. Now, this was the part that was kind of funny to me, because the history of pantyhose is kind of deep and highly relevant to some current or recent political realities in America. Nylon, which is used to make pantyhose, is synthetic. It's actually, I think, a byproduct of petroleum in general.
Yeah.
But it was also invented or patented, at the very least, by the DuPont family, if I'm not mistaken, and also was one of the driving factors behind criminalizing marijuana, not because of the effects of the drug, but because of the cheap production of textiles from hemp. Anyway, neither here nor there. But it was really funny to see Peggy Sue like back at home trying to sew something together when, again, nylon is 100% an synthesized byproduct. So I found that a little bit funny, but I get where she's coming from in trying to invent a wildly successful, product. She could have just
not the first time she's going to be
sports.
plagiarizing shit.
Yeah. I mean, you could have just bet on sports, like the better time travel movie, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Peggy Sue's friends barge in to confront her while she's doing this about the whole Michael Fitzsimmons thing, because of course Dolores can't keep her fucking mouth shut, and now everybody knows about it. In fact, Charlie shows up in this is one of the weirdest scenes, and it happens so quickly. In my notes, I just write what happens and did not go into the implications of it. But Peggy Sue is woken in the middle of the night by Charlie in her fucking bedroom, and he's like, let's go down to the basement and talk, which is usually how you end up murdered, if my fiance's true crime podcasts have taught me anything, by osmosis. But that isn't what happens here. Charlie confronts her about how he heard about her leaving the cafe with Michael Fitzsimmons the other night, and Peggy Sue brings up, like, she's sort of backpedaling verbally and brings up shit that happens later in their lives together, and this just confuses Charlie. So Peggy also shits on Charlie's singing aspirations, since she knows it'll fall apart. Having stuck with him while he tried to get that off the ground, and then ultimately ditching that to inherit his father's appliance business. But Charlie, true to form, is convinced that he won't end up exactly the way, he does ultimately, and then storms off.
Gotta feel for Charlie here.
You gotta like the whole thing is well designed as like a sort of a tragedy, right? Because that sucks, man. Like, in high school, you still have fucking dreams, aspirations. You haven't been crushed by the grueling realities of life. And if somebody even went back in time and told young you all of that shit, like, here, fucking save yourself some times. If you got to eat shit, best not to take your time with it. You're going to be like, fuck you, man. What do you know? So I feel for Charlie here. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, look, I still think at 35 fucking years old, about to be 36 in less than a month, like, I could still join a band and release an album.
Oh yeah, totally. Absolutely. Look at Robert Pollard from fucking, what is the name of that band? Guided by Voices. That dude didn't put out a record till he was like 37.
That's not a good example. You had to scramble for the name of the band.
Yeah, that's because my brain's not working, because I got all dehydrated.
Got all
dehydrated from fucking oysters yesterday. They destroyed me.
Good old oyster incident. It happens to the best of us.
It happens to me like twice a year.
But listen, kids, give up on your dreams. Just give up on your dreams. It's easier.
Look, there in no world is a bunch of 30-year-old dudes doing a podcast about Nick Cage telling you you can't follow your dreams no matter what your age is. But you gotta fucking feel for Charlie in this scene. If you've gotten that far in life, man, sometimes the realities end up being a little bit hard. I do recommend that you don't stop believing, but this this is kind of a realistic look at a scenario like this. So, the funniest thing is though, even Peggy Sue's stance on this sort of changes, but before that happens, Peggy meets up with Michael again, and this fucking cracked me up because he's not in a lot of scenes, but his character is so well fleshed out in the couple of times we see him. It's uncanny. So Peggy meets up with Michael again, and he explains that after high school, he's got a plan, right? As soon as they graduate,
God, we can't get away from the fucking Mormons.
they should go we can't get away from it, dude.
We can't get away from them.
It's absurd. But his plan is him and Peggy should go to Utah. He knows a girl out there who raises chickens. And Peggy and this girl, I think her name's Rita. I can't remember.
I think it was Rita. I'm pretty sure you're right on that.
He's like, Peggy and Rita should raise chickens to support him while he writes. And she's like, I don't know about that. That's kind of crazy. And he's like,
No. That's not what she says. She says, I can't do that. I'm allergic to chickens.
No. She says that after he says,
that's her way out of this.
Yeah,
because
okay.
what he says when she expresses some doubt, he goes, no, it's fine. You don't understand. Polygamy is legal in Utah.
Not like, oh, are you into that? Oh, is that okay? It's like, no. It's fine. I can just bang both of you.
He's like, no, it's cool. It's legal there, man.
It's a cool and legal thrill.
But yeah, Ryan, you're right. At this point, Peggy Sue goes, no. I'm allergic to chickens, which is fantastic. And she even manages to turn it around on him enough, be like, it was just a magical night, a singular experience. It's fine. Write about it. You know what I mean? Use it for your art. And she plays him like a fucking fiddle. I mean, after this, Peggy Sue has his fucking number 100% masterfully done on her part. Mainly because, again, he's immature as shit. Sorry, all of those archetypes, they are. If you know one right now, they're immature as shit if they haven't grown out of that. But it also turns out that Charlie is there at the same club or venue that they're at, moonlighting with a second band, which is like an R&B gig. And it's pretty good. But he's also singing a song that the lyrics are right on the nose for the situation. It's a little ham-fisted, but appropriate. Unfortunately, afterwards, Charlie sits down across from some sort of music producer, and the guy tells him, he just shoots him down, kind of brutal. And I remember the scene specifically because like Charlie's trying to like laugh it off, but it just gets like worse from like the producer's like, oh, this guy doesn't get it, so I'm gonna have to really lay it out for him. He's like, I don't know if it's you or the material, but I ain't fucking signing shit. Which again, like I said, kind of brutal.
Yeah.
But then the producer goes, however, can I interest you in some gas station dick pills, or a application for BYU, or a vacation to Amish country in the glorious state of Pennsylvania? Either way, here's a synopsis of his pitch.
You know what? Consider me convinced.
Yep.
Those ads and services really convinced me to get whatever they were selling.
Yeah. Highly convincing. I'm sold personally, but Charlie obviously is not super psyched. So Peggy actually goes to see Charlie the next morning, and Charlie is understandably annoyed with her But Peggy gives him a song she wrote for him that she guarantees will be a hit. So I love the setup and payoff for this joke because it's a fucking bop that she just wrote down from her knowledge of the present. But they walk to school together, and Peggy goes to see Richard in the library, and she says she came to tell him goodbye. Richard at this point is like, no, you can change your own destiny, like marry me. And Peggy Sue's like, nah, dude, like
You're a
I
nerd.
know I know in the future like you succeed and shit, but you're still a fucking nerd and I'm not marrying a nerd. But here is where we get the payoff to the fucking song Peggy Sue wrote joke, because Charlie finds her, she's leaving the library. And it turns out she wrote him the lyrics to
No,
She
hang on,
Loves
hang
You.
on, hang on, hang on, hang on. Don't say the name because like the joke before we find out the song is so fucking good.
You're right.
He
Charlie's
says,
like,
listen, this is really good. I just made one minor change. I changed the yes to O's. So it's I love you. Oh, she loves me. Oh.
yeah, that got me pretty fucking good. I'm not gonna lie.
Sorry, I know I got those words wrong. I don't listen to the fucking Beatles.
That's crazy, dude. I get the general the
I'm not
the
saying they're
general
bad.
stance.
I'm not being like edgy and being like, oh,
Okay.
the Beatles suck. I'm not doing that.
You just don't dig it.
Not my thing. Not
That's
my thing.
fine.
And that's fine. Anybody who bullies you into listening to the Beatles, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, you don't. You really don't. But okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes.
Because some
No,
people,
I'm not being an edgelord. And no, my shitty edgelord opinion in high school was that Led Zeppelin sucked.
Okay, that is a shitty opinion.
You must have ruffled some feathers with that fucking
It was
one.
my shitty edgelord opinion when I was 14. Was like, okay, what can I say to people so that they know that I don't like them? I know I hate Led Zeppelin.
He doesn't play by anybody's rules, not
No,
even his own.
That's right.
So sorry, I still can't get over the oohs. Peggy leaves to go visit her grandparents. And the funniest thing to this, because like the end of the movie got a little murky for me. I don't know if it was because I was tired or because it seemed like the timeline kind of sped up.
No, it goes off the rails.
Yeah. So like she tells her grandparents she's from the future. She basically like lays out what's happening to her, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're cool with it and they believe her.
100%.
So I actually have a little bit of a theory here because in just looking up this movie and how it was made and everything, Coppola had a finite amount of time to shoot it. Otherwise, he would lose his final cut privilege.
Oh, okay.
So he was running people like 20 hours a fucking day. So I think that when he probably looked at the schedule, the movie in front of him may have been an hour and 50 minutes, and he cut 10 minutes out. And this is where we got the 10-minute cut.
Well, that and the sister thing, probably.
Yeah. But like, so if he cut out 10 minutes, this was a solid 6 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, that tracks. That tracks. But yeah, her grandparents are just like fully on board. They're like, yeah, okay, yeah, that fucking happens all the time. Also, your grandpa is like a Shriner, so maybe they have some weird esoteric shit that they can do.
Also, her
it's like a time travel cult. Like straight up, he says he's reading a book about somebody who said that they lived in Ireland 600 years ago. They provided names, dates, and locations.
Well, yeah, that was the whole thing. He's like, no, a time traveler founded this place.
Yes.
Oh wait, I thought he was just a Mason.
No, it's like a time travel cult.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, that's cooler. That's way cooler than being a Mason.
Yeah, it's like a fake thing based on like Shriners and Masons.
Yeah,
and shit,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like the water buffaloes.
Yes, exactly. Or the stonemason or the
stonecutters.
Stonecutters.
They keep the Martians under wraps.
Yeah. Who keeps the metric system down? We do.
So the grandpa's like, oh yeah, totally. My fucking time travel drinking club can probably help you. So he takes her to the lodge, right? And that's where we get the information from one of the guys who's like, oh yeah, time travel's not weird at all. We were founded by a time traveler.
We've been waiting for this moment for decades, apparently, according to the one guy.
They're like, oh, we have exactly the ritual to send you back in time. It's all cool. Like, let's light some fucking candles and cigars and get to this shit.
Yeah, we got this.
I want to join one of those clubs so bad. I'm not gonna lie. We looked it up on one of our previous episodes.
It'd be so much fun.
I had to find
we
somebody.
just gotta start our own. The Esoteric Order of the Nicolas Cages.
Ooh,
that's a good one.
Yeah, we got to get buy-in though, because unless people are paying dues, we can't rent a lodge. You know what I mean? And for a while there, it's going to just be VFWs on weekends.
No, listen, we just turn it into a right wing grift, and we'll make our money.
I think we could, if we went obscure enough, we could try and take advantage of this weird period in our political history and make it just vague enough to appeal to all the folks who are really susceptible to conspiracy theories and shit, but model it after one of the most successful versions of something like this, Scientology, where you have to pay tens of thousands of dollars before we tell you the really insane shit that we made up.
Yeah.
That could be kind of fun.
You're like, hey, here's the believable shit.
Yeah. Once you've paid us $100,000, we're like, yeah, Nicolas Cage is a time traveler and is actually Jesus Christ come back to earth. So it all ties in. You get the evangelicals. It's just, then we just got to get a compound and everybody tracksuits and train them how to shoot Uzis. And then it'll probably end badly, but we'll have a good time getting
Damn, it'll be cool for a minute though.
It will.
God, what's one of the only good jokes from The Office? It's like Creed is sitting there. It's like, I've been in the cult, member and leader. You make more money as a leader. Have more fun as a member.
Yeah. I will give the Office credit for the character of Creed Bratton, who is a man playing himself. I'm 100% convinced. The other bit I loved with him is where they're doing karaoke and Creed Bratton is singing a song written and performed by Creed Bratton.
Yes.
And that's it. That's the whole joke. If you're not familiar with him, you don't get it. Anyway, so the lodge guys set up this ritual again, which involves some candles, but more cigars and scotch. And the lights go out, and when they come up, Peggy Sue is gone. But it turns out she's not back in the future, rather her present. Charlie just fucking stalked her there and kidnapped her out of the lodge when the lights went out, which is the second problematic scene with Charlie. Like, he shows up in her bedroom in the middle of the night and drags her down to the basement to talk, and then follows her and kidnaps her from her grandfather's lodge during a weird time travel ritual. This is not good behavior, folks. Don't do this.
There's also a very good joke in there that when the lights come back up and she's gone, one of the old guys says, well, she's gone. Let's go play cards.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Because it's a callback to earlier in the movie when Kathleen Turner asks her grandpa what her grandma thinks they do at these lodge meetings. And he says, stag movies and poker.
Yeah. Yo, I miss calling porn stag movies.
Yeah, right? So
like,
much
can we get
cooler
back
sounding.
to that?
Honestly, I'm okay with the social stigma moving away from a bunch of dudes watching pornography openly together. That is something I'm fine with not participating in.
I don't know. That's the words of somebody who clearly hasn't watched pornography with a bunch of dudes.
I have not. I understand the logistics that caused that to be a thing in the early days of pornography, but
yeah, there just wasn't that much porn out there. You got to share.
Yeah, no, it's that reminds me of the fucking scene from Boardwalk Empire where they literally, it's a bunch of guys watching like a hand cranked projector, including the fact and nobody references it. Like, it's weird. There's a dude actively cranking the projector while everybody else is just watching. That's
sounds like someone
crazy.
Sounds like someone's never been to a glory hole.
No, I have not. It also, by the way, we've got 3 people on this podcast, and the rate of herpes in America is 1 in 4 people. So, roll the dice on that. I'm not going to out anybody on this podcast, but I think we got an answer internally on that one. We'll make a Patreon tier. We'll reveal
reveal who has herpes.
Anyway,
I'll never tell.
Unless you pay me money.
Yeah, there you go. Don't suggest a bottom we can reach as far as debasing ourselves for subscriptions at this point, people. I don't want to know where my line is. But so Charlie kidnaps Peggy Sue, but then he proposes to her, so it's kind of a wash. She turns him down, but he gives her, I think it's a birthday present. I wrote birthday present in my notes. Does that track with you guys?
It is supposed to be her birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, it tracks.
And it's the locket that she was so fond of in the present that she woke up without when she traveled back to high school times. And she opens it up, and the locket has pictures of 2 babies in it. And this is the part that kind of confused me, because she showed off the interior of the locket at the reunion and explained that it was her kids. And when she gets it here in the past, she says the same thing. She thinks it's her and Charlie's future kids. And Charlie corrects her and says it's pictures of him and her as babies. It's their own baby pictures.
I think it's just her rewriting her own memory in prior to this, that she didn't want to remember that romantic thing that he did for her, that she has to assume that it's her kids.
Yeah, that tracks.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure there was some sort of group consensus on that one, because I wasn't entirely sure.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
100% makes sense to me.
Yeah, me too. So now, again, the end of this movie is moving really quickly. She just wakes up after this scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, she gets fucked back awake. Her and Nick Cage do the deed, and then it jumps back forward in time. They go back to the future.
Yep. So Peggy wakes back up in the present, and modern day crazy Charlie is at her bedside. They're more amicable than Peggy Sue's original attitude towards him in the present was prior to this whole flashback time travel bit. But Charlie does show her a book that he got that was written by Michael Fitzsimmons that seems to be dedicated to Peggy and reference the rewriting of history that she did during her time jump. There's a certain degree of reconciliation between the two, but it's not expanded upon because the credits roll very shortly hereafter. So again, because I was spotty on this, was there anything I missed in this scene where they flash back to the present? Because it seemed very quick to me.
Yeah, it was very quick. Everybody's just kind of like reconciled. We find out that Nick Cage dumped his girlfriend because he got tired of translating things for her.
Yeah, which makes me think that she was a fucking like teenager or some shit.
Well, no. So what I'm actually thinking is in the very first scene that we saw, the one that I played last episode, there's an Asian woman, and if you remember,
okay. You think she found her overseas when he was getting like a contract for buying appliances or something?
Yes, because like they do a thing where like she smashes a fortune cookie, and then he grabs the fortune and is like, "Oh, this is what that is." Like, oh, this is like, oh, with the VCR is now fucking $300.
You turn into a robot really hard there for like a minute.
Slow motion. You went.
Damn it.
Slow motion during that sentence. Don't cut it. Keep it in. You're talking about VCRs, so it's perfect.
I went this whole podcast without turning into a robot. I just gotta get a fucking Ethernet cord or something.
That
might help.
You doing this entirely wireless? No, he's still behind.
He's still behind.
Yo, fuck this.
It wouldn't be an episode without a little bit of robot Rich.
Yep.
but yes, so there you go. That's the plot of the movie. Again, this one didn't really hit with me.
Hit pretty hard with me. I
I
liked it
will
quite a bit, actually.
I will agree it's a well done movie, and I do honestly on in retrospect appreciate the character motivations and how it played out of another time. Well, with the exception of several loops in on say Groundhog Day, where you just don't give a shit when you get thrown back. But Groundhog Day was played very differently. This was Peggy Sue bought in from the jump, and that's the kind of sort of competent protagonist shit that I do dig. I do. So I like that element of it, but the rest of it was just a little bit outside my wheelhouse. Not to say it's a bad movie. I think it's a fine movie.
I think I'm back.
It didn't grab the way some other stories do. So also we did point out a couple of issues with the overall storytelling that likely had to do with editing and not the original vision. But again, we're reviewing the movies that we got, not the movies that we wish we got. If you're curious about our stance on that, watch any of our episodes where we talk about 8mm, especially Rich's feelings about 8mm.
Yeah.
We got to deal with reviewing what ended up on the actual screen. So
wait, can y'all hear me again?
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Yeah, fuck 8mm.
But yeah, perfectly serviceable. Didn't really knock my socks off, so to speak, but it was entertaining, and it did have a couple of really good bits. If you're a huge Jim Carrey fan, just for the few bits that he's in, it's very funny to see him, like I said, develop stuff that he used to great success over the course of his career. At the end of the acapella set at Maddie's house party, he's doing some pretty solid physical comedy up on stage behind one of the microphones that I think we glossed over in the actual plot review. But it's there. It's good stuff. Jim Carrey's physical comedy doesn't necessarily make for good radio, but it does make for damn fine. Now, that being said, I know we talked about it amongst ourselves.
Also, I just realized I got to do a correction from episode 1. I said that Barry Miller was in Biloxi Blues, the movie. He was in the stage play. So I just noticed that when I was looking at his Wikipedia, and I had to throw that out there.
At least that's a minor correction.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, just because I'm thinking about it for the first time now, do you think it's possible it wasn't time travel and Peggy Sue is just
remembering that time she cheated on Nick Cage back in the 60s? Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, because it honestly also would track with their semi-reconciliation at the end where she forgives him. She remembers not only the reasons she fell for him in the first place, but also her own infidelity in the infancy of their relationship. That would kind of work very well too.
Yeah, but that would also kind of make it so that the time travel cult shit with the grandparents didn't happen in the end. And I want that to have happened in the canon of the film.
True, but it's also a very convenient out for Peggy Sue's, jump back. It might be a situation where we have an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, that's possible.
In all of this, but I do think that it is important to point out that the mechanism for her to have gone back in time, the way everything played out, could work perfectly well if that did happen, and she jumped back for whatever reason, or if she was just accurately remembering what fucking happened back in high school. Because trust me, listener, if you aren't say 25 years out from your high school experiences, that shit gets muddy pretty fucking quick.
I don't remember dick about my high school experience. I don't plan on remembering either.
Yeah, no. Some of that shit can be blocked out for your own sake. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I think either interpretation works for this movie, which I think is definitely a hallmark of good storytelling, and there's nothing bad we can really say about the acting unless we really wanted to needle Nick Cage's approach here. We mentioned it several times.
I don't. I think he did a perfect job. He didn't want to be here, and I agree. He should have just kept doing that. It's great.
I agree. You know who wouldn't agree? Francis Ford Coppola.
That's fine. He's made a lot of bad movies. He's made a lot of good movies, but he's also made a lot of bad movies.
No, I liked him in this film. In fact, I think to really work the character, you have to have this like comedy, because like the scenes where he is charming and like you get why Peggy Sue fell for him in the first place, it comes off really well. Where if you just take the surface level with the weird voice and characterization and shit like that.
Did we actually touch on what I think the voice was during the podcast? Because I didn't mention it.
Rich made the Buddy Holly joke, but we didn't go into it specifically.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think he's doing a Buddy Holly impression that's just cranked up a few too many notches, and that's what that voice is. When he talks about, you mean my ho wang?
Best line of the film.
It really was
100%. Definitely going to be iconic. We have to string together a bunch of our sound bites from these movies, because I really want several lines from 8mm intercut with the "You mean my Huang" from this movie. Because
you mean my Huang?
You mean my Huang?
Did you come?
Did you come?
Do you mean my
Huang?
Huang?
You mean my Wang?
But yeah, no. I honestly I disagree with Francis Ford Coppola. I think Nick Cage's portrayal was the right one. The character had to be somebody that you agreed with the protagonist on in the beginning, and then follow her journey of coming back around on in the end. And the scenes where he is charming and understanding and caring play really, really well. And then the ones where he's pissing her off with like some of his core personality traits also come off as grating. It's a fine line to walk. And Nick Cage, whether by genius or by accident, his portrayal does that. It does it really well.
In watching, how many movies have we watched at this point? Somewhere around 40. It's genius. I agree. We've been trying the Nick Cage good or bad question has been the primary thing we're trying to go for here. And I'm still on the side of genius with his portrayal with a lot of this shit. And I think this is a good example, primarily because, a well-decorated director fucking hated the shit out of this.
Yeah.
So this is critic score versus audience score here. I don't know. I agree with the direction he took, though I will admit it's a little unconventional.
Cher agrees with the audience score on this one.
Well, and also Francis Ford Coppola is kind of known for he wants to be the name on it. It's anything past the Godfather, like the first two Godfathers, it's he wants to be the name. That's why everything he does is like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Yeah, that makes sense. That being said, though, just coming back to Ryan's point real quick, I don't think it's a big victory lap to say Cher is clearly correct about something.
Yeah, no, Cher is generally correct at most things.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bet against Cher at this point in my life. I feel like I've learned enough to avoid that common pitfall. But yeah, Peggy Sue Got Married, another one of the classics in the books, I think relatively successfully. It's an entertaining movie. It's very well put together, and the acting is really good. If you feel like having an 80s night, this is definitely one of the movies you want to throw on. I mean, we've covered a couple that could fit this bill, but Peggy Sue Got Married kind of does embody the time period that it came out of.
This is quintessential 80s to me.
Yeah, in a way that also managed to do it without being problematic, which is odd because they really could have fucking stepped off of the modern day acceptable path, especially with the bullying of a nerd in high school. No tropes or anything particularly poorly aged, in my opinion. Nothing jumped out to me. Did you guys catch anything like that?
No, actually. Now that you mention it, that is a little surprising.
And yeah, right. I'm now thinking back to some of the other older movies that we've seen. Like Moonstruck didn't have a whole lot. It made fun of Italians a lot, which is always funny.
Which is correct.
That's fair. That's still okay.
Correct.
Like Vampire's Kiss was fine.
Valley Girl, not so much.
Valley Girl was not. Bad
Fast Times?
Lieutenant, they did drop the N-word, but it was definitely
I think it was contextually appropriate in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I don't think it was a sign of the times. It was more of a, like, he's a piece of shit, and that's
characterization,
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
it's
I feel
it's
like
my Always Sunny defense. When people say, like, oh, I don't like Always Sunny, I feel like they're too mean. That's the point. You're supposed to hate them.
Yeah. Yeah, the obsession with some people these days where it's like the protagonist has to be a good person that I root for is just wrong, objectively wrong.
That's baby mind shit. That's some child mind academy shit right there.
And they fuck up good shit by making that fucking assumption. Like, you can't watch Sopranos, Breaking Bad, a number of things where if you believe that the protagonist is always good, you're not understanding the point that is being made in a bunch of these stories.
Yeah, just throw Neon Genesis Evangelion in the trash.
Yeah, yes. Well, I don't even want to start the fucking Evangelion conversation at this point. That's a whole fucking
that'll be a whole ass podcast.
Yeah,
I could talk about that shit all day though.
I was gonna say, and another one that probably is 15 different individual podcasts dedicated to it too. We're not gonna dive into that. Maybe someday. Maybe after the Nick Cage fight podcast.
Fucking oh god, how good would it be if Nick Cage played Gendo Ikari?
He's one of the only people I would pick to do that. Oh my god. Right? I didn't realize how perfect of the live action casting that was until you said it. Jesus Christ.
Right?
He could do it.
He could really do it. He could be a bad dad.
All right. Okay. So I think we've covered this. Before we do the plugs, Rich, tell us what fate has in store for us, please.
So what fate has in store for us is not a Nick Cage movie. He kind of is. No, it's straight up not a Nick Cage movie. I'll explain to everybody why we're watching it, but at first I'll just tell you we're watching Grindhouse.
Sick. I love a Grindhouse.
Okay.
We're watching Grindhouse because Nick Cage was in one of the fake trailers.
Seeing this in theaters was one of my favorite movie-going experiences of all time. The fake trailers in between the two movies were so perfect.
I did not see it in theaters, so I'm very excited to see it again. It's been years.
I got broken up with halfway through this movie and stayed for the rest of it, and I still loved every moment of that day.
What? Wait, yeah. Did they leave the theater?
They left the theater. They were like, okay, I'm done with you. I'm leaving. I haven't been having a good time in this relationship. And I was like, well, that's cool. I'm gonna watch the rest of this totally dope movie.
And you're like, shut up. I can't hear what's going on.
Shut up. Was that Nick Cage's Fu Manchu?
Oh my god. All right. Come on. How can you not listen to our next episode now? Come on. All right. Well, there you go. I'm definitely very excited. This is going to be an entertaining watch. Also, I'm a big Kurt Russell fan. So,
yeah.
And Danny Trejo. I mean, there's a fucking housekeeping is going to be a nightmare.
Housekeeping is going to be a monster in this one. Hey, Bill Moseley shows up for half a second in that same trailer.
Oh, this is not going to be fun.
Yeah, this is gonna be a long one. Fake trailers. We're gonna have to be so specific too.
I mean, the two movies don't have a lot of meat on their bones.
We're gonna have to fill it with fun, personal anecdotes, man.
Yeah, about cucumber sandwiches. Let's all make cucumber sandwiches next week, and we'll just see who makes the best one.
Oh, I got this one in the bag.
Gonna have a little potluck.
I'll take that challenge. A brunch challenge.
Oh yeah, we're gonna sit here. We're gonna munch on each other's cucumber sandwiches.
Munch on our brunch.
That's not a bad idea, actually. We'll all make fillings and drop it off to each other and be like, okay, which one's the best?
Yeah, that's actually not tough. You prep your own cucumbers. I'll make sure I send you my method so that your cucumbers don't spoil my spread. And then we'll.
Oh no, just make it. I'll do the legwork. I don't mind. I'll do the legwork.
right.
Just make it.
I got you. I will do that.
And tell us what kind of bread it should. I mean, I feel like it should always be on white bread, a cucumber
White bread,
sandwich.
100%.
Yeah.
I might be the odd man out. I'm thinking a rye bread might do some business.
Okay, then we'll have to get some rye bread too. All right, look, enough talk about this. Hit us with the Twitter.
Yeah, you can please follow us on Twitter. You can find us at cagefight_pod.
You can also find us on Patreon, patreon.com/NickCageFight. Give us money and we'll do things for you. Hand stuff mostly.
White knuckle OTPs, baby. OTP HJs.
They used to call me the white knuckler.
They still do.
That's all I got. That's fucking all I got.
Well, thank you for tuning in, and as always, listeners, we appreciate you.
Bye. Bye.